Thanks for the introduction. Hello everyone, I'm Yuxiang Yang from Tsinghua University. Today I'm going to introduce one of our works titled Off-Path TCP Hijacking in Wi-Fi Networks, a packet-size side-channel attack. This is a collaborative work from Tsinghua University, George Mason University, and Southeast University. I will introduce the work from the following 6 aspects. First, let me introduce the street model. As shown in the right figure, the street model consists of 3 types of hosts and 1 access point. The first is a remote TCP server, which could be a web server or an HTTP server that is providing TCP services. And the access point is providing Wi-Fi services, and it will encrypt the Wi-Fi frames with the WPA2 or WPA3 mechanisms. And there will be a victim client who has connected to the Wi-Fi network, and it will establish a TCP connection to the remote server. And the off-path attacker, who is a malicious insider, who has also connected to the same Wi-Fi network, and it has no control of the Wi-Fi network, and it can only sniff the encrypted frames over the air. In this street model, we propose that the attacker can terminate the victim's TCP connection to the remote server, or it can inject some malicious data to the unencrypted TCP connections. Here's some background. First, to conduct an off-path TCP hijacking attack for a TCP connection between a given target server and the victim client in the same Wi-Fi network, the attacker has already known the destination IP address, which is the server's IP address, and the destination port number could be chosen according to the services at the server, such as 80 for HTTP. And if the attacker wants to hijack the TCP connection, it still needs to know the source IP address of the victim client, and it has to guess the source port number, sequence number, acknowledgement numbers, as they are all randomized to prevent off-path attacks. Then as for TCP options, there are supplemental fields in the TCP headers to provide some functions, such as the timestamp option, which is used to improve RTT measurement and prevent sequence wipe, and the SACK option, which is in short for selective acknowledgement option. It is used to enable efficient retransmission by acknowledging discontinuous data blocks. However, we found that the TCP options will influence the size of the TCP packets. As shown in the table, we can find that different types of TCP control packets have different types of TCP options, and their size will be different. And the challenge ACK mechanism is proposed to defend against blinding window TCP attacks. For example, if the TCP server receives a crafted TCP packet, such as a receipt packet with an incorrect sequence number, the server will first check if the number is in window, and if it is in the acceptable window, it will respond with a challenge ACK packet back to the client for verification. However, we will leverage this mechanism to trigger the server to respond with different types of TCP packets to steal some critical information. Last is the Wi-Fi encryption and frames. In modern Wi-Fi networks, the access point typically uses WPA2 or WPA3 mechanism to encrypt the user's Wi-Fi frames at the link layer. And in this way, the attackers can only observe those unencrypted fields, such as addresses or tabs in the Wi-Fi frame header. However, we found that the size of the encrypted Wi-Fi frames can also leak some vital information to the attacker. As for the detailed attack procedure, the attack consists of 4 steps. In the first step, the attacker will try to get the client's source IP address, and in the next 3 steps, the attacker will get the source port number, sequence number, acknowledgement number step by step. First, in the first step, when the attacker connects to the Wi-Fi network, it will probe the Wi-Fi network with some existing network scanning tools. The attacker can use some ARP requests to identify the IP address of the potential victim clients to get the corresponding MAC address. And in some Wi-Fi networks with API isolation enabled, we propose that the attacker can also use the IP reservation mechanism of the DHCP protocol to get the source IP address. For more details, please read our paper. And in the second step, the attacker will try to guess the source port number, which is randomized, chosen at the client side. And the attacker will first send some SYN ACK packets with the spoofed source address of the victim client to the server with some guessed source ports. If the attacker guesses the correct source port number, as shown in the left figure, the server will respond with a challenge ACK packet according to the challenge ACK mechanism. The ACK packets will carry with the timestamp option, so the frame size of the ACK packet would be 68. However, if the attacker guesses an incorrect source port number, the server will just respond with a reset packet, and the reset packet will not carry any options, so the frame size would be 56. The attacker can sniff over the air and analyze the size of the encrypted frames, and it can traverse the possible source port space to find the correct source port number as used by the victim client. Then, in the third step, the attacker will try to infer the sequence number of the victim connection. The attacker can also send some ACK packets with the smooth source address of the victim client to the server, and the ACK packets will carry with different guessed sequence numbers, and the ACK acknowledgement numbers would be random. If the sequence number is less than the exact sequence number of the victim TCP connection, the server will respond with a SACK ACK packet, and this packet will carry both the timestamp and SACK options, so the frame size would be 80. However, if the sequence number is greater than the exact sequence number, the server will just respond with an ACK packet, and it will only carry the timestamp option, so the frame size would be 68. So in this way, the attacker can divide and conquer the possible sequence number space and find the correct exact sequence number of the victim connection. And the last step is to infer the acknowledgement number, and the attacker will adopt a similar strategy, that is to send some ACK packets with the guessed acknowledgement numbers. And then the attacker will also sniff and analyze the size of the frames. If the acknowledgement number is in the acceptable window of the connection, the server will respond with an ACK packet. And however, if the ACK packet is not in window, the server will just drop the packet, and there would be no response. So the attacker can use the 3 steps to guess the randomized values, and after that, it has got all the information it needed to hijack the TCP connection. It can send some reset packets to the server to terminate the TCP connection, or it can inject some malicious data to the TCP connection if the connection is unencrypted. As for the empirical study, we have performed tests on 13 mainstream wireless routers or access points from 9 vendors, including Xiaomi, Tenda, Rijie, and we found that the frame size side channel are existing in all of them. And we have taken 2 case studies of the attacks. The first one is the SSH DOS attack. Attacker can terminate the SSH connection in an attack time nearly 19 seconds with an average success rate of 84%. After attack, the SSH terminal would be stuck for a period, and then we carry the HTTP injection attack. The attacker can inject some malicious data to the HTTP page in an attack time nearly 28 seconds with an average success rate of 72%. And we have conducted several experiments of the attack in 80 various real-world Wi-Fi networks, such as some bookshops, coffee shops, restaurants, hotels, campuses. And in these Wi-Fi networks, we will take the 2 case studies of attacks on SSH and HTTP and measure the success rate of each attack. As a result, we found that 74 of the 8 Wi-Fi networks are vulnerable to the attack. And the attack failed in 5 Wi-Fi networks as they enable both the API subordination and reverse path validation. So the attacker cannot inject any malicious data to the client, and we treat these kind of cases as failures. As for mitigation, we have proposed two kinds of countermeasures to mitigate the attack. The first one is to revise the Wi-Fi standard to support random padding for encrypted frame size. And we have reported the vulnerability and the possible abuse of the side channel to Wi-Fi islands, and we are in discussion with them for the detailed implementation of the mitigation. And we suggest to modify the TCP protocol style to ensure consistent responses to different types of TCP packets to prevent the attackers to steal some vital informations. In conclusion, in this work, we have uncovered a new side channel that is the encrypted frame size side channel in Wi-Fi networks to hijack the TCP connections. And we have performed an intensive investigation against some popular access points or routers and in real-world Wi-Fi networks. And we have suggested some defense countermeasures to fight back the attack. That's all of this work. Thanks for your attention. I'm happy to take your questions.
Let's thank the speaker. For questions, if you can go to the two microphones in sides of the room. Don't see anyone currently. Still getting our caffeine through, right? Let me start with the questions myself. You did mention that 5 of the networks, actually your attack failed, right?
Yeah.
And I'm curious whether that was because there was some default setting in the access points or because they did a good job in administering the networks. So was it a router specifically that always protected, or was it a good setup that they had?
Okay. Thanks for your question. It's a very good question. Yeah, the attack fails in the 5 real-world Wi-Fi networks because they have the better setting of the network Wi-Fi networks. They enable both the API isolation and reverse path validation. It's a default strategy enabled in this kind of Wi-Fi networks. And with this strategy enabled, the attacker cannot inject any packets to TCP packets to the victim clients. So the attack will fail all the time.
But why was it enabled? Why were these things enabled? Was it because of the setup? Or
yeah. Because the setup, maybe the network operator is careful about the network security, and they have.
Because you had like, what was it, bookstores and cafeterias? Was it a more sensitive location that they did a better job in security, or was it random? I'm trying to understand the real world applicability, right? Whether, if it's bookstores, nobody cares, or if it's a university network.
The university networks are more secure as they enable the both strategies, so the attack fails.
That's a question, yes.
Hi, this is Sirius from Microsoft. You mentioned that you guess the correct port number from within 10 seconds, right? Something like that.
Sorry,
you mentioned in the slides that you can find the correct source port number within 10 seconds. Is it right, or I missed that part? Because you need to guess the source port number, right?
You mean the attack time?
The source port number. You need to guess the source port number, and you mentioned that it was discovered within 10 seconds. Is this right?
No, the total time of the attack is 10.
Okay, and what is your execution environment that was able to perform the whole attack within 10 seconds? Sorry.
I can't hear clearly of your question. Sorry.
I'm talking about like the execution environment, the hardware infrastructure, using which you were able to perform this attack within 10 seconds.
The attack can. The attacker can carry with the attack in tens of seconds, yeah.
Okay.
I think it's better if we take offline. We'll stay in the room after. You can ask the question offline.
Yeah,
right?
We can talk it offline.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.